My name is Catherine Ellis. I am 36 years old and I run a small antique shop in the old part of Savannah, Georgia. Most people think I live a quiet, simple life. I wear old clothes, drive a car that is more than 10 years old, and spend my days cleaning and taking care of things others might call junk. But to my family, I am a failure. They see me as a single woman with no husband, no children, no big job, and no fancy degree to talk about during Thanksgiving dinners. My dad, Mr. Harold, used to be a bank manager. He believed that your credit score was just as important as the kind of person you are. My mom, Mrs. Nancy, was a high school principal. She believed kids could do well only if they chose the right school, studied the right thing, and married the right kind of person. My sister Lauren was everything they ever wanted. She finished college with honors at Stanford, became a lawyer at a big company in Chicago, married a successful doctor, and had 2 kids who started playing golf at age 7. Their holiday cards looked perfect, big smiles, matching sweaters, and shining teeth. And then there was me. I studied art history at Georgia State. While Lauren worked in courtrooms, I spent time reading old books and looking at antique furniture. My mom once told me, art is nice, but it doesn't pay the rent. I still remember how her hands shook a little when she closed my college application. She was disappointed. After college, I worked at an auction house for 3 years. I learned how to spot real wood from fake, how to tell if something was aged on purpose, and how to guess the time period of old lamps. I was so excited one day when I found something priced way too low, almost $$3,000 less than it was worth. I told my dad, but he just said, "Sounds like a gamble." When I was 28, I used up all my savings, borrowed a little money from a friend, and rented a tiny shop on a quiet street. I called it Ellison and Era. I decorated the store like a museum, with each piece treated like a treasure. On opening day, my mom brought fake flowers, looked around, and whispered to her friend, "Hopefully she grows out of this before she turns 30. After that, I became the forgotten one at every family party. Every holiday felt like a play where Lauren was the star. She was the smart lawyer, the caring mom, the perfect wife. People asked me things like, "Is your shop still open? Have you thought about being a substitute teacher?" Once, I heard my dad tell my uncle, "At least she isn't asking us for money." They had no idea what my work really meant. Every item I sold carried a story. I once sold a silver tea set worth over $$2,000, and I lost sleep worrying if I had priced it right. Another time, a customer cried when she heard a music box play the same tune her mom used to sing in 1945. My family only saw dust. They never saw the meaning. But the hardest part was not the way they ignored me. It was the feeling that I was never good enough. No matter what I did, I was still just Catherine, the daughter who didn't go to an Ivy League school, who didn't get married, who didn't have awards to show off. I accepted that role, because at least it meant they left me alone. I never told anyone, not even my best friend, about something special that happened early on. One of the first items I sold changed everything. It was a very old French clock I found in a dusty shed. The owner just wanted to get rid of stuff, and I bought it for $30. After cleaning it and doing a lot of research, I found out it was a rare clock made for a French general a long time ago. 3 months later, that clock sold at an auction in New York for $48,000. I didn't spend any of it. I opened a private investment account and used my business to keep everything organized. That was when I learned that my passion could also make money. I didn't need my family's approval. I needed time, patience, and the ability to see value where others didn't. I started waking up early on weekends to go to estate sales in old homes by the coast. Many rich families were moving out or downsizing, and they didn't know how to price their old things. I carried a notebook and a small scanner and trained myself to spot real antiques from cheap copies. One time in Jacksonville, I met an older couple selling their late father's books. He used to be a college professor. Hidden among all the books, I found a very rare woodblock print from 1837. I bought the whole box for $125. 6 months later, after I checked the signature and history, That print sold to a museum for $210,000. Of course, big finds like that don't happen all the time. But just a few great pieces each year, along with my normal sales, helped grow my investments. I didn't keep anything under my own name. I made a company called Camellia Holdings, got a financial advisor in Atlanta, and slowly bought the whole building where my shop was. Not just the shop, the apartments above it, the office next door, and even the parking lot behind it. All of it was under the company's name. No one in my family knew. They still believed I was barely making it, running the shop just for fun. And I let them think that. I lived a simple life, not because I was poor, but because I liked it that way. Most of my clothes were old vintage pieces that I carefully picked. Some only cost $20 at flea markets, but they were made from fine French fabrics from over 100 years ago. My car was an old Subaru, but I took good care of it. It held a lot of special memories. I did not drink expensive wine, but I owned a set of rare crystal glasses I had found cheap at a pawn shop. Glasses the shop did not even know were valuable. Every year, I took one trip to Europe, usually in the fall. I said it was to buy antiques, but really, I went to spend time in museums in places like Florence or Vienna. I loved reading old books in quiet shops in Bruges or walking in the rain in Paris, just to watch the lights reflect on the streets. I did not live this way to impress anyone. It made me happy, and that was enough. That Thanksgiving, I arrived at my mom's house around noon. I brought a homemade pumpkin pie and a set of crystal glasses I had just cleaned. Every year, I brought Lauren a small, meaningful gift, something with history. And every year, she ignored it. Instead, she talked about her big work projects, her contracts, or vacations to places like Hilton Head or Aspen. My mom's house in Athens, Georgia looked the same as always. The garden was neat, the inside was styled like a magazine, and the kitchen smelled like butter and cinnamon. Lauren had come early, and her fancy black SUV blocked the whole driveway. I parked farther down the street, where no one had even cleared the leaves. As I walked in, Lauren gave me a smirk. "Well, look who showed up. Good thing you didn't keep your little shop open today, huh, Catherine?" I just smiled. I had left my assistant in charge of the store, but Lauren would never understand that. To her, if you were not working 8 hours a day, you were not working at all. We helped our mom set the table. She handed me a bag of potatoes. "Can you peel these, sweetie? Your sister is doing the plating." I sat at the kitchen table and quietly did my part, just like I always did. My dad walked in, holding a glass of bourbon. He smiled wide at Lauren and barely looked at me. "How's the store, Catherine?" "Still open." I replied calmly, "Same as always, Dad. Had some interesting pieces last month." But he was already focused on Lauren, who was deep into a story about a big medical lawsuit. I heard words like contract breach, liability, and board meeting. Mom smiled and nodded proudly. At 3 p.m., we all sat down to eat. The chandelier gave off a warm glow, and the table smelled like turkey, cranberry sauce, and bread. It felt like every other Thanksgiving until Lauren said, "Where's my phone?" It must have died. I looked up. My phone was on the kitchen counter where I had left it while washing fruit. Before I could stop her, Lauren grabbed it and started scrolling. A few seconds later, her face turned pale. She stood up and said loudly, "What is this, Catherine?" Everyone went quiet. She held up my phone so everyone could see. The screen still had a message from my financial advisor, Martin. It said, "Congratulations, your net worth just hit $15.2 million. See you next week to discuss the Charleston investment." My dad set down his drink so hard it spilled. My mom's mouth fell open. Lauren looked at me like I had committed a crime. She held my phone like it was proof of something bad. "You have got to be kidding me," she said. $15 million? From your tiny shop?" I stood up and reached out my hand. "Give me my phone, Lauren." She pulled it away. Her eyes were full of anger and confusion. "No, you need to explain. Where did that money come from? Are you doing something illegal? Because if you are, this could hurt all of us." "It is not illegal," I said calmly. "That money is mine. Every dollar came from the work I do, the work you call playing with junk." My father's voice was shaky. "Is this real, Catherine?" You really have $15 million. I nodded. The room went silent. Just minutes before, we had been sharing what we were thankful for. Now, I felt like I was standing in court, being judged by my own family. Lauren looked shocked. You let us think you were broke this whole time. You let Mom worry about your future. Dad offered to help you get a job teaching. All while you were sitting on a fortune. My mom whispered, almost like she was talking to herself. She wears old sweaters, gives the kids used books, uses a cracked phone, and she's a millionaire. I took my phone back and put it in my pocket. No one ever asked. No one ever really listened when I talked about what I do. I wasn't hiding anything. You just never cared unless it was about Lauren. Lauren laughed, but it was cold. Well, now we're going to have a lot to talk about after dinner. I looked around the table, at my father's tired eyes, my mom's worried face, and I knew the real drama was just starting. We ate in silence. The turkey grew cold. The gravy dried up. No one touched the sweet potatoes my mom always made with pride. That one message, $15.2 million, was all anyone could think about. No one said, congratulations. No one cared about the years I spent working hard. They were too busy thinking about what they could do with that money. Of course, Lauren was the first to speak again. She set her fork down and said gently, Sophia has a chance to study violin in France. It's very competitive. But it's also very expensive. If you helped, she could go. I looked at her. Are you asking me for money? It's not asking, Lauren said. We're family. You have it. I need it. It's just fair. My dad nodded like that made sense. My mom sipped water and added, you live alone. No kids. No school bills. Helping out shouldn't be hard, right, honey? Before I could answer, Lauren's husband Jeff spoke up. He usually stayed quiet, but not this time. You're letting that money just sit in a bank while your sister is struggling with tuition and bills. You wear old clothes, drive an old car, live in a small place. Do you really need all that money? I put down my fork. Are you saying that because I live simply, I do not deserve what I earned? Jeff shrugged. I'm just saying, if you're not going to use it, maybe someone else should. What about all the work I did? I asked. The years of research, the learning, the risks I took. When everyone laughed at my little shop, I kept working. Now, just because they saw a number, everyone suddenly thought they deserved a share. Lauren lowered her voice and tried to sound caring. She said, do you even know how much we worried about you? How many nights Mom could not sleep, thinking you might not even have health insurance? You owe this family some honesty. I let out a small laugh. That was funny to me. For years, no one ever truly asked me about my work. Not once did Mom or Dad visit my shop after the day it opened. Every time I talked about antiques, they brushed me off. And now they thought I owed them something? Mom cut in, her voice a little firmer now. We're not pressuring you, sweetheart. We're just saying you should think about using your good luck to help your family. I looked around the table. They were all staring at me like I was a walking wallet. After a quiet moment, Lauren spoke again. Softly but carefully. I'm only asking for Sophia. Maybe you could help with a small scholarship. You could even put your name on it. Just one act could change her whole life. And after that? I asked. Then it will be Max, then your mortgage, then Mom and Dad's roof. What do I become? A bank with the same last name. Jeff let out a sigh. He was getting annoyed now. Catherine, don't be so dramatic. You don't need to give all of it. Just maybe $3 million. You'll still have $12 million left to enjoy. I turned to my dad, who had been quiet this whole time. What do you think, Dad? He didn't look at me. Your mom's right. We're not forcing you. But remember, we all thought about helping you when you were struggling. Now it's your turn to help us. I nodded slowly. I felt a cold, empty feeling grow inside me. I had hoped for some surprise or maybe even a bit of pride. I never expected applause, but I thought someone might recognize how hard I had worked. But instead, they only saw numbers. No one asked what I had learned. No one cared what I wanted. They just did the math and called it love. It was close to 4 p.m. when I pushed my chair back. Catherine, Mom said, don't leave in the middle of dinner. I turned to her, speaking quietly but clearly. I'm not leaving. I'm protecting the boundary you all just tried to cross. I stepped outside without my coat. The cold wind touched my neck, but for the first time, my mind felt clear. I stood on the porch, holding the wooden railing. The November air slipped through my gloves, but my face felt hot. Inside, I could hear forks and spoons clinking and voices growing louder. It sounded more like a business meeting than a family meal. 10 minutes later, I walked back into the dining room. Before everyone continues deciding how to spend my money, I said slowly and clearly, I want to make one thing clear. They all turned toward me like I was a student daring to speak up in class. My money didn't come from luck. No one in this room helped me when I started. No one was there when I carried furniture at 6 a.m. or came home tired after 12 hours working in a dusty shop. So why do any of you think you get to decide what I do with it? Lauren leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. I'm not saying you didn't work hard, Catherine. But if you love your family, sharing shouldn't be this hard. I gave a small smile. I don't lack love. I lack respect. Real respect. Dad put down his bourbon again. Your mother worried about you for years. We didn't know you were saving all this because none of you wanted to know, I said. Every time I talked about my work, someone changed the topic or said something like, just hang in there. No one ever believed I would make it. Jeff pulled out his phone, maybe to check numbers. He looked up at me and said, the problem isn't the money, Catherine. It's that you kept it a secret. It feels like betrayal. I nodded. If anyone in this room knows what betrayal feels like, it's me. Lauren slammed her hand on the table. Enough. You cannot act like you are some noble person while you refuse to help your own niece. I stood still. Helping means someone asks with respect. This is not help. This is pressure. A guilt trip. It's all covered in entitlement. Mom had tears in her eyes now. You're tearing this family apart over money. You live alone. No husband, no kids. What are you going to do with that much money your whole life? That question hit me like ice. I'm going to live how I want, I said. And if that embarrasses you, I'll carry that burden. Lauren stood up, scraping her chair loudly. If you leave today without agreeing to help, don't expect things to stay the same. No birthday invites. No graduation for Sophia. I stared at her. You're using your kids to threaten me? This isn't a threat, she said. It's what happens next. I walked to the door and picked up my coat. My hands were cold and shaking, but my voice stayed steady. I'm not saying no because I'm selfish. I'm saying no because I've finally learned something. Never give your worth to people who only see it when it turns into money. Dad called after me, you'll regret this. Being alone catches up with everyone. I turned my head slightly. I still have family. Just not here. And I shut the door behind me. It was getting dark. My thin coat did little against the cold wind, but I felt calm inside. No more quiet seats at the table. No more fake concern. Just my own footsteps on the cobblestone street, first heavy, then lighter, like each step was lifting the weight off my back. Back at my shop, I did not turn on the lights right away. I went upstairs to my apartment and sat by the window. I looked out at the street. Soft music came from the cafe across the corner. Everything looked the same. But I was different now. I checked my phone. A message from Mom said, you hurt us, but I still love you. Lawrence didn't write anything. I didn't wait. I put my phone on silent, not to ignore them, but as a reminder. Real love does not come with guilt or demands. The next morning, I opened the shop early. Not to sell anything, just to clean and get rid of the heavy feelings from the day before. Being treated like a bank account made me want to reset everything. Jasmine, a college student I had hired 3 months ago, came in at 8 a.m. holding a cappuccino and looking worried. Are you okay? I texted you yesterday but didn't hear back. I smiled as I took the warm drink. Better than you'd think. And thank you for being patient. Hiring Jasmine was one of my best choices this year. She's 23, loves antique fabric, knows a lot about Victorian designs, and has something I once didn't, mentorship. Now I get to be the mentor. Over the next few weeks, I gave my all to the shop. I started a blog series explaining the history of American wooden furniture. A lot of people read it. Some even sent me thank you letters. One person asked to work with me as an apprentice. I started hosting tea and story sessions on the first Saturday of each month. Loyal customers, kind neighbors, and curious students came to listen. We talked about old mirrors from the Civil War or glass cups once stuck in a cargo box in Charleston. No one at these events asked how much money I had. They asked questions like, did this belong to someone important? Or, how do you know this was handmade? They cared about stories, not price tags. One day, while packing a ceramic piece to ship to California, I got an email from a small museum in Nashville. They wanted to work with me on a short course about old furniture. A college professor I had once helped had recommended me. That's when I realized I was no longer a shadow in Lauren's world. I was someone with a voice, a purpose, and a circle of people who truly cared. One night in December, I locked up the shop and went to the bakery across the street. Mrs. Marie, the 68-year-old owner, was waiting for me like always. We sat by the window, sharing apple pie and cinnamon tea. She was the first person to hire me for an antique job, and the first to say, "You see things others don't. Don't let anyone make you forget that." I told her what had happened on Thanksgiving. She didn't ask for details. She just said, blood isn't always family. Sometimes family is who you choose. I got home late that night. The wind howled through the windows, but I did not feel cold. I opened my journal and wrote one line. No one can cut you off from what you have built with your own hands. Asterisk, asterisk. I may need people, but I have me and the ones who truly see me. January arrived with a quiet chill and a few firm, beautiful changes. I taped a small sign on the window of Ellis & Era. Antique Appraisal and Preservation course begins January 14th. Max 8 students. Within 3 days, it was full. Among the sign-ups were a 72-year-old woman obsessed with French porcelain, a retired history teacher, 2 college best friends studying interior design, and even a well-known chef from Charleston who wanted to create a 19th-century-themed restaurant. They came from every corner of the state, not with demands, but with curiosity and a reverence that touched me deeply. During our first classes, we sat around a carved walnut table I had salvaged from a forgotten church. I did not teach like a professor. I told stories about the hidden carvings under Windsor chairs, the sweet, distinct scent of 1920 shellac, about a table someone once dismissed as junk that turned out to be a rare post-colonial heirloom. As I watched their eyes light up, I realized I was not just teaching. I was passing on a spark. Meanwhile, Jasmine, my brilliant assistant, now ran the shop floor with grace and quiet strength. She handled the bookkeeping, staged displays, and had even started learning how to date historical fabrics. One Friday, after a class on Brazilian mahogany, she handed me a green envelope tied with ribbon. "Open it," she said, beaming. Inside was a proposal. A hand-drawn expansion of the store, a preservation workshop, and training space in the back. "We could do hands-on sessions," she said. "And if you say yes, I want to help turn it into a training center for young people passionate about this field." I stared at her sketches in silence, then smiled. "You're dreaming big," I said. "Because I learned from someone who dares to dream big," she replied. That night, I called Martin, my financial advisor. After a short conversation, we agreed to allocate $250,000 from my portfolio to start the Camellia Fund, ***, an annual scholarship for students and independent learners in heritage conservation, antique interiors, and applied art history. There was only one requirement: a real-world project. By March, we had 43 applications from 11 states. Our first recipient? Lena Martinez, 27 years old. Dropped out of school because she could not afford to continue studying woodworking conservation. She included photos of pieces she had restored with traditional methods. And a handwritten note. "I don't want to profit from what's new. I want to preserve what's old so future generations can understand how their ancestors lived." When I called to give her the news, she broke down crying. "You have no idea. You just saved me from going back to a convenience store." That sentence stayed with me. I had not saved her. I just did what I once wished someone had done for me: believe in my passion, even when I had nothing else. By late April, the back of the store had transformed into the archive room. Workshops, guest lectures, student exhibits. Some days, people had to wait outside because there was standing room only. Then, one evening, while I was restocking display shelves, someone walked in. Amanda, asterisk asterisk. My cousin, the one who had skipped every family event for years. She now lived in Asheville and taught timber frame restoration. I heard about your class through a forum, she said, smiling. Didn't know it was you. I just wanted to say, you're doing something extraordinary. I invited her in, brewed mint tea, and we sat reminiscing about childhood. By the end of the night, we were talking about co-teaching a course, one that combined material preservation with Appalachian ecology. There was a time I thought my world ended at four walls and antique shelves. But the truth is, once I stopped waiting for my family to see me, I found the ones who always had. No dinner parties. No polished toasts or hollow compliments. Just the career I built, the voice I had found, and the community I chose. And for the first time, I felt I was living right. Not because I needed to prove something, but because I finally belonged. Thanksgiving came late this year, asterisk asterisk. Not because of the weather, autumn in Savannah was still golden, warm, and dry. But because I no longer marked the days like a countdown to judgment. No more rehearsing smiles under my mother's chandelier. No more shrinking into conversations I never belonged to. This year, for the first time in 15 years, I was the one inviting, asterisk asterisk. A week before the holiday, I picked up the phone and called home. My father answered. I was thinking, if you two wanted, you could come to Savannah this year. I'll make dinner. Just the three of us. There was a pause. Then he said softly, your mother would like that. No apology. No trembling voice. But also no blame. That was enough. At noon on Thanksgiving, I welcomed them at the shop. My mother wore an olive green cashmere coat, her hair pinned up, lips in soft pink. My father wore sunglasses and a baseball cap. Standing under the Savannah sun, they looked like an old photo I used to wish was real. Your shop looks so different, my mother said. It's more beautiful than we imagined. I smiled. You've never seen it in the afternoon. The western light brings out the grain in the wood. My father touched the corner of a mahogany table. How old is this one? Circa 1815, I replied. Cuban mahogany. Hand-joined. Belonged to a shipping family from Savannah. He nodded. No comments. But something in his face had softened. Upstairs in my apartment, we ate dinner. Rosemary roast chicken, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and a pecan pie I baked that morning. Not extravagant, but carefully made. Not for them, but because I wanted to. We ate quietly, but not awkwardly. My father asked about the classes. My mother spoke about the neighbors. No one mentioned Lauren. No one brought up the money. No one spoke of family duty. When dinner ended, I poured tea and handed my mother a white box. A gift, I said, gently sliding it across the table. Inside was a silver camellia brooch, late 19th century. I had found it at an auction, drawn to the flower's shape. The same one I used for the scholarship name. She opened it slowly. It's beautiful, she whispered, hand trembling slightly. You know, I always loved camellias. I nodded. You used to pin one to your blouse on parent-teacher night. You still remember that? I remember everything. The room fell still. Then my father placed his cup down, straightened his back, and said, we were wrong. We thought following Lauren's path was the only way to be successful. I just thought it was safer. I understand, I replied, voice calm. And I need you to understand something too. I do not need praise. I just want to be seen as enough. My mother said nothing, but she nodded. Barely, just enough. That night, I walked them out at 7 p.m., watched their silver sedan turn the corner and disappear. No tears. No tightness in my chest. Just one solid truth. I no longer needed them to become the parents I once wished for, asterisk asterisk. But I had spoken. I had set boundaries. I had kept compassion from turning into negotiation. I went back into the shop. The room was dim, filled with old pieces, each carrying a past. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel small inside them. I opened my notebook and wrote. For the first time, Thanksgiving was not a test. It was just dinner between three people where I no longer had to ask permission to be myself. Catherine's story reminds us ***. True worth does not come from family approval or societal praise, but from the courage to live on your own terms. In a world that measures success in titles, applause, and wealth, she built a life of quiet beauty and meaningful work. Sometimes, the greatest form of love is learning to protect your peace. What would you have done in Catherine's place? Would you have walked away? Or tried to make them see you? ***. Tell us in the comments below.